Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today we have a very important and exciting program. Another one is now coming forth saying they know who the Antichrist is. Now I'm going to start with a disclaimer. God has not told me who the Antichrist is. I don't know. I'm just a watchman like you, and I'm bringing forth the information as best as I can. Speaking of which, since and it's sad to say, but since Chris kind of got into some trouble, without saying any bad things about Chris Reed, I pulled all future information from him. So let's move on. And I encourage you to subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and also support the Prophecy Club. And you can do so quickly and easily by just getting your camera, like you're going to take a picture of that QR code, and it'll zoom, take you right over there. Disclaimer, we are not saying Emmanuel Macron is the Antichrist, nor anything bad about him. Okay, so this comes from Vicky Goforth Parnell. This was sent to me by one of our listeners. And I'm saying, again, a disclaimer, we're not saying anything bad about Macron. We're not saying he is the Antichrist. And she says, this is who I've been seeing as the Antichrist since 2020. And you can look up all the details on it. Then we have a vision from Dalton Travis Gray, January 2, 2024. He said, I had a dream and I was in a random place and a global distribution just occurred. A blackout. It was a worldwide cyber attack, and it was some event that disrupted all world systems at once. It was a planned event to consolidate world power and control of all money systems. Information systems, such as the internet and the exchange of information in a global surveillance state in which we are subject of that state. I knew this must be according to prophecies in the Bible. I saw this event was the catalyst for this event. Some places of the world, people just didn't care. The countryside people who lived simple lives seemed to calm down. The skies were super dark, like black skies, seemed very demonic and stormy. The Pope came out wearing his papal crown with many jewels in it. He had jewels on his clothes and his staff in his hand, and he was dressed as majestic as a Pope can get. He was wearing it all and looking slick. Then another individual came out. This individual was tall. He had olive skin. They all say he had olive skin. He was not a white European. He was very handsome. They all say he's very handsome. They use that word even. Very handsome, and had the charisma of 100 times more than Joel Osteen. Just by looking at him, you just wanted to hear what he had to say. The Pope lifted his staff, telling everyone to calm down, calm down. Not long after he gave the floor to another fellow. He was thin. Soon he was beginning to speak. Everyone was mesmerized, and that's what they say about him. They all say these same things. Mesmerized, and everyone calmed down and became happy to hear him. Here's what Kim Peters said about him. I'll never forget his face, ever, as long as I live. Of course, now Kim Peters gone to be with the Lord. I'll never forget his face. His face was almost supernatural in appearance. He was almost too perfect. And he was, for lack of terms, the most handsome man I've ever seen. I want you to know I'm a very happily married heterosexual. When I say he was a handsome man, I don't mean that in a strange manner. I just mean to tell you that this man had everything going together for him. Everything. He had this kind of chiseled look on his face, and everything about his appearance was almost perfect. And when he spoke, there was just a very strange quality about him. Now let's jump to what David Phillips says about him. He said, please understand I'm sharing this to the best of my memory. He was in a Catholic church at the time. He said, then the left and the right sides of the screens expanded to the same time at what looked like forever. Also, the top and bottom of the movie screen expanded to forever. I was no longer thinking about the church service. All I saw or was thinking about was the vision in front of me as it played. The vision I saw was of a new pope. The pope that I saw was standing in front of great masses of people in Italy and the Vatican. He was high so that he could speak to the people directly. There was great excitement in the crowd because the papacy had finally returned to Italy. He looked younger than past popes, not frail. He was maybe in his 30s or 40s with dark hair and dark facial hair. That's what it says. What greatly troubled me were the words he was shouting. His words were not of love and kindness, as with past popes I had seen. He was threatening and attacking the Protestants, shouting that the true church must rise up and unite against the Protestants. He was shouting that the Protestants were not true believers, but rather unbelievers. The crowd was shouting with rage and hatred in support of him and his words. He said the penalty for them must be death. The people were in the complete agreement with this. They had been called to action, and the entire world would now rise in power to kill Protestants in all nations. I'll say that again. They had been called to action. The entire world would now rise in power to kill Protestants in all nations, like the movies they put out about the purge. The words he spoke were so frightening, I could not explain how mere words can be so powerful in developing a reaction in you. It was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed before, and somehow I knew in my heart that he was talking about killing us, the true believers, who are far fewer in number. I knew that what he was saying was the opposite of the truth, but the people would believe him. Now, this is for me, how to spot the Antichrist. And by the way, I'm not convinced that the Antichrist is even on the earth yet, nor am I convinced that the tribulation has started yet. I'm still watching. Now, this ties in. Remember, I've said this many times. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution. And if you haven't heard that, I'll let you read it, but that's not my point, so I'm going to move on. Also part of Dmitri Dudumit's testimony, the angel said, I bless this country because the Jews are here. Next paragraph, Israel doesn't recognize the Messiah. Next paragraph gets to the point I want to make. God will raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians and defeat the Russians. They'll back them to the gates of Paris where they sign a peace treaty. But, here it is, they make the Russians their leader. Now, we got one person, and another one person I'm about to read here, says that Macron might be the Antichrist. But I want to point out that will make the Russians the leader. Do you think Macron is going to be the leader of Russia? Because I don't. Do you think that a Russian leader is going to be leading the world to go down to attack Israel? That's what the Bible says. So unless Russia is somehow going to let Macron be the leader of it, and of course we do know that the Antichrist leads the world, I'm just saying it's a far stretch. Let's go on. They will make the Russians the leader. All the nations with the Russians as their leader go down to attack Israel. That's Armageddon. Next on. So here's what many of the people say he looks like. This is a summary. His appearance is handsome. Olive skin, dark hair with facial hair. He worships the god of forces. He defeats 3 European kings in his rise. He sits on the Ark of the Covenant, and he removes sacrifice. Now, that's the thing I know. When we see that, we will absolutely positively know that guy's the Antichrist. The confirmation will be when he sits on the Ark of the Covenant. That's a gold throne. Inside is shittim wood. On the outside, it is about 600 pounds of gold, and he sits on that. That's the throne of God on the earth. That's what the devil has wanted to do. And when he sits on that, or I should say, when he is wounded to death and his deadly wound is healed, I believe that's when Lucifer himself comes in and joins Nebuchadnezzar, which is the spirit of Nebuchadnezzar that rises, I'll show you that in just a second, rises out of the pit. He proclaims himself God and removes daily sacrifice. Here's part of what is a very important part if you want to understand this. Daniel 7. I saw in the night vision, behold, a fourth beast. Fourth beast, that would be the Antichrist. Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, had great iron teeth. This is world government. And it devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with the other kingdoms before, is what it's saying. Is diverse from all beasts that were before it and had 10 horns. In other words, the 7 continents are divided into 10 global regions. That's the 10 horns. Each one of those global regions has a ruler. Got it? 10 regions, 10 rulers. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Okay, so among them means out here it's the 11th horn. Before him whom the 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. So we got 10. Then there's another 11th guy that comes up. This 11th guy then overcomes 3. And then he stands up. That would make 8. So it's 10 to 11 back down to 8. 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And by the way, when you see, and we do not have a world government yet. They have not divided the 7 continents into 10 global regions yet. They have not had the 11th ruler. But that's how we're going to be able to spot him. When we see that 11th ruler rise up, we're going to be able to say, that's him. And then when he goes against and conquers 3 of the other rulers, without question, and I think that's going to be before he sits in the Ark of the Covenant. So in my opinion, that's what we look for. Right now, we do not have world government. We haven't even got the third beast. The third beast is the leopard with 4 heads, with 4 wings, and the leopard represents Islam or Muslims. We do not have a Muslim conglomerate of 4 nations. Each of those 4 nations has a head. We do not have the third beast. So how can you have the 4th beast if you don't have the third beast? But in my opinion, I'm watching very carefully to see if the third beast arises out of this agreement that will end the war in Israel that started October the 7th, and probably it'll end with the headline that says Omer ushers in Palestinian state. And it'll probably be when they get back their access to the Temple Mount, and that's when they bring in with the Ark of the Covenant and all this sort of stuff. And so probably, just guessing, God's not told me for sure, but probably next year. Now, we thought it happened this year. We're watching for it this year. Didn't happen this year, so we're watching to see if it'll happen next year. Okay, let's go back to this. The little horn before 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn, that's the Antichrist, were eyes like the eyes of a man. Now, some people want to say, oh, the Antichrist, it's a system. Well, it's a system, but it is a flesh and blood person. And I believe the person that is possessing that body is Nebuchadnezzar. I'll show you why. I don't go into by the way, I go into a great deal in my book, Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. But anyway, let's move on. And a mouth speaking great things. Now, you see that last sentence there? That's real important. Who gives the Antichrist a mouth speaking great things? The answer? God. Why would God give his arch enemy a great mouth to speak very, very bad things about him? Why? Because it's a test. It's a test that everybody gets to go through because God's got to find out whose side we're really on. Daniel 7:20. And the mouth spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Now, that word stout means handsome. Okay? I beheld till the same horn made war with the saints. And Revelation says it was given him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So these scriptures, Daniel 7 and Revelation, have many confirming verses. War with the saints and prevail against them. Now here's Revelation talking about the same thing. And it was given him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Blasphemy is a direct attack against God. And power is given to him to continue 42 months. So once he sets on the Ark of the Covenant, he's got 42 months, which is 3.5 years, or times and the dividing of time, or 1,260 days, however you want to cut it. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And I've said it many times, right now we don't have anybody talking bad about Jesus or the church or the Bible or God, but this guy's going to openly do it. That's another way we can spot him. The person that steps up and starts talking bad things about God and Jesus and the Bible openly attacking them. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. He exalts himself above all gods. This is the way we can spot him. You want to be able to spot him this way. The king shall do according to his will. He shall exalt himself. Now, right now, we don't have anybody saying, hey, I'm greater than any god. I'm greater than Allah. I'm greater than Buddha. I'm greater than Jesus. No one doing that. That's exactly what this guy's going to do. See, so if we know our scriptures, we're going to be able to spot him. We will spot him pretty early, I think. Magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous, that's bad things, against the God of gods. That would be Father God and Jesus his Son and Holy Spirit. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers. Okay, well, we don't know for certain who the God of his fathers is. My guess is he's Muslim, and I think he will come from a Muslim area, hence olive-colored skin, okay? Nor the desire of women. I do not think he is a homosexual, because if he says he desires women, then he's not a god. So he's going to say, no, I am above all. I don't have any interest in women. I'm God, you see. Nor regard any god, for he will magnify himself above all gods. You see, you don't understand. I am a god. But in his estate he shall honor the God of forces. You look that word up, and it's strength. So he honors strength. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. And this is an important one. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is worshipped, or that is God, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's the reason he's not interested in women. He's not interested, he magnifies himself above all of the gods. He says he is the only God. And with arms he shall stand in his part, and he shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. That's where he sits on the Ark of the Covenant. He'll take away daily sacrifice. See, that right now they're not sacrificing animals in Israel, but for the first time in 2,000 years, Israel now says they're going to sacrifice animals. And I believe they will probably wait until they have access to the Temple Mount back, and probably at the end of this war that started October 7th, is probably going to give them access to the Temple Mount. That's when they will start rebuilding the temple, but I don't think it'll be a temple. I think it would be the tabernacle of Moses that he drug around in the wilderness 3,500 years ago. And yes, it's still good today, so says the person that found it. Anyway, they'll take away the daily sacrifice and place the abomination that maketh desolate. And what's that? That's the Antichrist sitting on the Ark of the Covenant, the throne of God. That's what the devil has wanted to do since before time began. Okay, now let's jump to talk about the Russian Antichrist. Why do we think he could be coming from Russia? Ezekiel 38:2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. You go on down, and it says, against the mountains of Israel. So this is Russia coming down to attack Israel. And I guess Macron could be leading it if he's leading the whole world. But again, that's a bit of a stretch. Then you go to 11:39. Thus he, or the Antichrist, shall do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. We haven't seen that done yet, but he's going to do it. So, my personal opinion, I don't think Emmanuel Macron is going to be the Antichrist, but several do. We have like about 3 people that say he is the guy, so we will see. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire for women. We've talked about that. Now let's jump to Terry Bennett. Then there will rise a new government in Europe, which Gabriel warned me, keep your eyes on 4 nations. They are signposts to what is coming. Keep your eyes on Greece, Italy, Spain, and France. Greece is going to want another Alexander the Great. Italy is going to want another emperor. Spain is going to want a king and queen. France is going to want another Napoleon. Satan is going to offer all 3 in one person. They will say yes. Through chaos, they will gain control. He says, he went on to say, that Paris, France will become a hotbed of turbulence in the future, and that's true, it has. And the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, will gain more public notoriety and news coverage and will emerge with more worldwide recognition for his purpose to introduce false peace to Europe. I'm not saying this angel said that this Emmanuel Macron is the beast or the Antichrist, but he did say, keep your eye on him and watch him. Okay, so we'll continue to watch him. Emmanuel Macron, actually his correct full name is, according to research, Emmanuel John Michael Frédéric Macron. Now, what are the Hebrew meanings? Emmanuel means God with us. Jean is God is merciful. Michael is who is like God. Frédéric is peaceful ruler. Macron is printed mark. Now let's jump back to Terry Bennett. October 5th, 2022, Atonement Yom Kippur, Terry Bennett says he has had the angel Gabriel visit him. And he says, I'm waiting for the Lord, so I wait. Gabriel speaks, as he did April 2nd, 2022, when he came to me and stood beside me and said, in real time, Revelation chapter 5 is occurring in heaven now. When he said that, I was able to see the angel proclaiming who is worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof. On October 5th, 2022 is the Feast of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, and the angel Gabriel comes, blows the shofar, and says, it is time. I see the Son of God has broken the first seal. That's the 7 seals of the tribulation, which I assume breaking the first seal starts the 7-year tribulation. And when I was memorizing the book of Revelation in 2017, I had the audible voice of God say, the 7 seals play over 7 years. The 7 trumpets play over 7 months. The 7 vials play over 7 days. So I assume the opening of the first seal is the starting of the 7-year tribulation. Not 2.5, not 3.5, it's 7 years. So Gabriel comes, blows the shofar, and says, it is time. I see the Son of God has broken the first seal. The rider on the white horse is now going forth. The nations have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Gabriel says Europe will be strengthened. Russia will be weakened. America will be weakened. And the Asian nations will form an alliance and be strengthened. Great turmoil will come to Israel and Russia. And what begins in peace will end in utter destruction, obviously Armageddon. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, who I believe at least, this is Terry Bennett, is an Antichrist figure. I believe it's stronger than that. I was shown his face in 2001 by Gabriel. Gabriel tells me over 4 days and says, Gabriel comes to me, is the way it should be worded, over 4 days and says, keep your eyes on 4 nations, Greece, which we read, Italy, Spain, and France. I saw the face of Emmanuel Macron before me, and I could see it plain. I knew this man is the Napoleon to which Gabriel had just referred to. Now let's jump to Jason Meeks. 5/3/22. I have a view from above the most beautiful yacht I've ever seen, sitting on a wide river in France. The bottom and sides are mahogany and the top is glass. Anyone inside has a 360-degree view. I zoom in on the yacht, and Emmanuel Macron is showing a young man some paintings on the yacht. 2 other high school boys were sitting at another table. Macron was wooing them like a man woos a girl on a date. I heard a voice say, this man has no interest in women. The dream cuts to the research facility hidden in the French Alps, with no roads leading to it. Scientists were researching how to mix humans with robots. Not like the Terminator movies with robot inside and skin on the outside, this was much more advanced. I was shown inside their skull. It was partly human and part machine. The brain was human, but on other pieces were wire. Some parts steel inside a bone with blood vessels. Other parts with human muscle overlapping steel parts. All the parts were melded together in a fashion that made it almost impossible to tell where human ended and machine began. Then I heard the words, he is trying to make the image of the beast, as I've been saying for years. It's going to be some kind of a clone that hook into the quantum financial computers. A year before the French election, Macron had no political party and no previous electoral experience. Then won a landslide victory over the preferred candidate. At age 39, he is the youngest president France had ever had, taking 351 out of the 577 seats. Now you recall, Revelation 13 says, here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man whose number is 666. Well, there are 36, 6 times 6, total characters in Macron's name. So that's 32 letters, 1 dash, 3 spaces. If you give each character a value of its position and calculate the sum, you come to 666. Now, I'm saying I think that's stretching, in my opinion, but I'll put it out there for you. He won the election with 66.06% of the votes. Macron has said he will rule like the Roman god Jupiter. Now, that's important. I'll show you. Jupiter in homage to the highest pagan god in the Roman and Greek pantheons. The king of all the gods in ancient Roman religions, in open reference to this, Macron's nickname is Jupiter. Other names given to him include Jesus Macron, Europe's Savior, and the new Louis XIV, or the Sun King reborn. Now, this is from the Bible. This is from my understanding, my research. So Revelation 17 says, there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was once alive in 70 AD, when John got this, in 96 AD. I knew that's something wrong when I said that. The beast that was once alive in 96 AD, and is now not alive in 96 AD, and he that is the 8th and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. So, Jack L. Frost researched this. So I got this from him. I thought he did fantastic research, so I'll pass it on to you. He's also gone to be with the Lord now. So anyway, he says that in all human history, there's only 7 kings that have committed the abomination of desolation. Nebuchadnezzar, when he set up the beast and made, or the image, made all people worship it. Antiochus Epiphanes, I think, he sacrificed a pig on the altar, and others. So these have all committed the abomination of desolation. But in my book, Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, I take like several pages to explain this. And that is, Nebuchadnezzar is going to be the Antichrist, and the reason is, and I'll give you 8 different reasons in there, which I'm now running out of time. I'm over time here. But Revelation 11:7 says, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. So we see that there's 7, it says clearly there's 7 kings, but he is the 8th, but he's of the 7th. Well, how do you get to be 8 of the 7th? And the answer is, one of them got to come back to life. Which means the Antichrist must be one of those 7, because he had to commit the abomination of desolation, and he has to come back to life. And I believe it's Nebuchadnezzar that was falling endlessly and helplessly in the bottomless pit, that then comes up and inhabits a person. I do not think that we have to have a baby born again and that child raised up as to be the Antichrist. He just simply comes in and possesses the body of someone on earth already alive. So, there you go. That's what we have as far as the information on the possible Antichrist. In 2021, I started making bread, and long story short is I believe God showed me that wheat is God's famine food, just like it was famine food back in the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, days of Pharaoh and Joseph. And I believe that that's what God has planned to feed his people. And you get it by going to josephskitchen.com. 3 steps. First, you want to get a machine package. Second, you want to order 6 ingredients, and watch some videos, download the recipes to be able to make the bread. josephskitchen.com. Most of your long-time storage food, emergency food, all of that, typically are talking $9,000, $10,000 to feed one person for a year. Joseph Kitchen can show you how to do it for around $1,000 a person, and your kids will actually eat it, and it's actually good for you. Here's some bread that I made. In my case, I lost weight, lowered my blood pressure, gives me more energy. I eat a morning, slice in the morning, slice in the afternoon. Always a slice before I go play racquetball. Go check it out, josephskitchen.com. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper, and as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these from EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your prophecy class.